memoQ Fest before, but that was in San Antonio, so I think probably nobody in this audience has heard him. So I think this will be a great surprise for you. I hope it will be quite a brilliant presentation. Mike?
Can you hear me? Finally! Hi, you guys stole my thunder. I mean, how can I follow such a charming pair of TV hosts? But I'll try. Actually, I wanted to build on something that Gabor said that I thought was very interesting. And that's about being playfully serious about what we do. All right, so, well, neither one of these is me. But I work at the intersection of machine intelligence and human expertise, like we all are, increasingly, more and more. And I've been focusing on machine translation and human translation, as Peter was saying, but I've been lucky enough to be able to work in these other domains as well, both in the computational side of things and on the human side of things. I started my career as an experimental psychologist, believe it or not, focusing on what goes on in the interpreter's mind when he or she does simultaneous translation. Hard stuff, but a lot of fun. So these are some of the things that I'm interested in. Just to give you a little credibility, so you can calibrate how much you will believe or not of what I say. So I have a bunch of experience as a translator in a couple of languages, and as an interpreter as well. I taught interpreting, I've done interpreting, and I've done the technical writing and editing kinds of things. Okay, so I'm very much passionate, sorry Gabor, about text and language. I studied linguistics and I studied psychology, and I lived and worked outside of the US for a long, long time. Maybe not long enough, given current changes in politics. On the other hand, I've been working in machine translation for 20 years. So I was president of the Association for Machine Translation in the Americas. And one of the things that we did that I'm really proud of is we spent very much time educating human translators in the US about the the advantages of machine translation, okay? And I worked myself developing machine translation for quite a while. Long while ago, Arl from TS, Common Sense Advisory, we put out a guide for deploying machine translation. It's now outdated because it didn't say anything about neural MT, so it's totally outdated. Yeah, but one of the things I've been focusing on, rather than the engineering side, is the deployment side. What do organizations need to do to be able to leverage machine translation effectively? So this is the kind of thing that I've been doing for a while. People keep asking me, are you a duck or a rabbit? Are you a translator or an IT guy? Okay, maybe both, maybe neither, but here I am. Like Peter said, I was at eBay and went through the traumatic experience of trying to translate by machine really, really crappy human source text. That was a challenge. And now I'm relaxing at LinkedIn, translating stuff for 500 million people. Okay, that's relaxation. And what I'd like to talk about today is what I'm calling hybrid intelligence translation. So one of the things we have to do is clearer and clearer, and Gabor was saying, mentioned this as well, is forge a partnership. Okay, we don't want to follow in the footsteps of what the MT systems are doing. We don't. How many people have done post-editing? How many people love doing post-editing? I don't see any hands, what's wrong? Okay, that's what I mean. We don't want to follow the technology. Okay, we have to forge a real partnership so it works for everybody. So guess what? This time it's for real. The computer zombie translators are here, and they want to take your jobs. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Okay? And if you read the press, this is what we see every day, every week. I see it all the time. I don't even have to do a Google alert. You see it all over the place. The zombie machines, AI, neural, whatever you want to call them, they're coming and they're going to get your job. So be afraid. Okay? Oh yeah, and the neural MT is here too. It's cut off, but it is hypnotizing the MT guys. Okay? And it's so cool. Okay? Oh, I had to show you this. So this is like a week old. I found all these quotes that are a week or 2 weeks old. By 2024, computers will be able to translate about as good as you guys. 2024, that's like, what, 7 years from now? Yeah. Right? I told you, you should be afraid. This is a prediction here. Okay, serious people trying to do this. Oh yeah, and if you wait a little bit more, then they can translate a brand new language. Just as well as you guys. Okay? This is, there you go, just published May. You might ask, I hope you ask, you should immediately ask, what kind of evidence, what were they smoking? What kind of evidence are they using here? Okay? What most people see is just the headlines. What your customers see is the headlines. You have to read this stuff so you know how to respond to it. So, where did they get this from? They asked a bunch of researchers in a lab someplace. Oh, what do you think? Oh, well, I think, boom, 10 years. What do you think? Oh, well, 3 years. Oh, what do you think? And this becomes news. As if it was worth anything. Right? As if it was fact. Okay? You have to read these so that you can respond. Okay? People will ask you about this. Oh, your job's going away. I'm so sorry for you. It's like, what are you talking about? That's total bullshit. Sorry. Okay, there you go. This is what we're looking forward to. Right? You're laughing. You're not supposed to be laughing. You're supposed to be crying. Okay? I am playfully serious about this. What's this one? Oh yes, this is it. Okay, now you can cry. Alright, this is where we're at. If you listen to the press, what was it? What was the estimate that I saw? 5 million jobs are going to disappear because of AI. Cool, and automation. Okay, I just don't believe it. Actually, I spent way more time than I should have reading the economists' studies to see what was going on and where these things were coming from. And if you read the economists, then they say, it's all baloney. See, I'm trying to tone down the language. So the economists have a very different take on it. And I'll mention that later, and if I don't, just squeeze me during Q&A. Okay? So this is where we are. This is the kind of news that we see. We see it all the time. Our profession is being singled out as one that's really ripe for elimination. Okay? Firing squads will come soon. All right? After the AI comes. Okay? And this is my reaction. Okay? Like, really? Didn't we learn anything the last 300 times they said this stuff? How many times have you heard that machine translation is going to take your job? Yeah, you've heard this before, okay? I've been around longer than some of you, so I've heard it more times than you have, okay? And I noticed that you're still here. And there are younger people who are still here, keep coming into the profession, okay? So this is really important. We just gotta be careful about this. So now, however, the situation has changed a bit. There's so much of this in the news that our clients and family and friends and everybody is starting to pay attention to this stuff. Okay? This is great. On the way out of the office, just as I was leaving, I bumped into a friend. Hey, see you, I'm off next week. I'll just catch you when you go. Oh, where are you going? We're going to talk. What are you going to talk about? And I said, oh. And then he said, oh, you're going to talk about the doomsday scenario. I said, yes. Please tell them the truth. This is a guy who's a PhD from Stanford, works in machine translation and artificial intelligence all the time. His message to you, as I was walking out of the office, is tell them the truth. What's the truth? Tell me, J1. The technology is so primitive. No way it's going to take anybody's job. Okay? No way. I mean, we work with this every single day, and it's like, okay, what are we going to do next? All right, so reasons why you should ignore this crap. Just, you know, it's stupid, mostly rantings. I read it and I would laugh, but it makes me cry because there's so much of it. Okay? It's false. This is what I spend a lot of time doing. I read literally hundreds of pages. I read books, I read articles, all sorts of things. It is false. all the careful studies of the impact of innovation and technology on jobs is that it changes jobs. It very rarely actually eliminates them. Okay? Changes. This is important. What's the other one? Ah, yes. It's overblown. Yes, neural MT is great. Yes, there are in fact improvements. Yes, there are great reasons for being optimistic about what the technology can eventually do someday. Okay, because they're nice, shiny new tools. Okay, but when you look at the numbers, what are they reporting? They're reporting a whopping 5% improvement. You know, like from 35% correct to 40% correct. Isn't that dramatic? Well, for you guys it shouldn't be, but for researchers who are used to seeing 0.5% increases, improvements, it's really dramatic. Okay? Where are we going? Oh yeah, so on to this. If any of this were true, then given this chart from the CSA folks, you see here, the use of MT at LSPs has just exploded since 2010. Okay, the chart is backwards, but it basically says that around now, some 80% of all LSPs have at least a year's experience using MT. Okay? I come from the Stone Age, when LSPs were like, you're out of your mind, machine translation, that's stupid, it's crazy. Okay, so this is interesting to see. But if this was true, then what would you expect to happen to the number of people who are working as translators? Right? If everybody's using machine translation, then the number of translators is going to decrease, right? And the number of translation companies is going to decrease. Because you just plug it in, you turn it on, and we're done. Right? How many people have used MT? How many people have been able to plug it in, turn it on, and be done? I don't see any hands. Okay? So the question here is, we should see a big decrease in the number of translators since 2010. Okay? But when you look at the data, what you find is the industry has doubled in revenue. Okay? The census in the US, that's just in the US, shows that the number of people who report that they work in the translation industry has doubled. Terrible impact of machine translation, right? It's taking away everybody's job. Okay, and the number of people on LinkedIn who mention the translation industry has increased by at least 50%. Does it sound like machine translation is taking away people's jobs? Somebody say yes or no. Okay? Alright, so what's behind all the hype? You have to know this because you have to know how to respond to it. What's behind all the hype is this stupid question, this question. Will humans do the translation work or will machines do the translation work? Okay? This is absolutely, totally the wrong question. And it's formulated by people who don't know anything about translation. Okay? When you start reading who is producing the news that we consume, they don't know anything. They really don't. Only two options. How many of you have only one kind of project that you do? Yes, you're supposed to laugh. These are LSPs, like, okay? We can make one decision only for all kinds of translation, all kinds of content, all languages, all purposes, all audiences. Sure, press a button and it's done. Hello? How about all price points? Sure, we can get humans to do it for 0 cents a word. Okay, we can get machines. Okay, all of this just tells all of us, because we know about this, that this is way, way, way too simplistic. Okay, that's great for if you're writing in a newspaper, but for us in the real world, it makes absolutely no sense. All right? One point of view that I see, and I actually put in a blog post because it's a recent blog post from an LSP in Poland, I hope you're not here. But it was a blog post along the lines of what I saw 15 years ago, which is like, machine translation is sent by God, and it's useless, and all of these kinds of things. We know that this is just far too simplistic. How many of your LSPs look like this? You mean just the clothing has changed? All the rest is the same? Okay, so thinking that only humans can do translation, we already know is far, far, far too simplistic. Okay? Can we use only MT to do translations? Everybody said, yes, I heard you. You just whispered it. Okay? My favorite examples here are, you can actually tell what data they use to train the system by some of the mistakes. So I have literally seen all of these errors and many more. Okay? This is a good one for me. A friend of mine, we rolled together an MT system. LinkedIn members got translated as LinkedIn member states of the European community, which is really irrelevant. Even if it's a correct translation and perfectly well formed in the target, it's not what we need. Okay? This one is from eBay. Can anyone guess what the training corpus was? I used these examples for a bunch of researchers, and all of them nailed immediately. Said, oh, that's from this corpus. I know that one. Okay, it happens that there's a huge corpus of movie subtitles that's used by MT systems, and when you put that kind of corpus in, you get this kind of output out. Okay? Needless to say, we put it in and we had to quickly take it out before we showed it to the public. This product comes with no guarantee. As a real simple one, affirmative sentences outnumber negative sentences in regular corpora by a factor of 10 or 20 to 1. So if you're doing it statistically, you say everything is affirmative. Legal had a problem with this, I don't know why. You may like this one too. Yeah, I thought that would work well around here as an example. Yeah, the product people on our Germany team just really had a problem with this. I don't know why. How about a case for your iPhone? Right, at eBay this is a really significant problem because any idea where we got the training corpora from? Anyone? No?
Legal?
The Hansards. Okay, Canadian Parliament. Lots of the European community. All this legal stuff. So when you talk about a case, guess what? It's not for your iPhone. Okay? And the last one you might find puzzling. John was translated as Isaac. Stephen was translated as Malcolm. All these interesting and wonderful things. It took us like 3 weeks to figure out what the hell happened. Anyone? We use the corpus from the Bible. And in the Bible, they have these long lists of names, John and Stephen and Sarah and blah, blah, blah. And it turns out that the alignment programs have a really hard time with lists like this. So they screwed up all the alignments of the lists, and this is what we got. Okay? I should actually put in the other one that was really problematic for us. What was it? I think it was AT&T got translated as Pepsi. Our product people had a kind of a problem with that. Okay, so there you go. Can we use only MT to do translation? I don't have to ask you that. All right? A lot of times what you get is more data is more chaos. This is a slide I used for the research guys. I said, guys, hello? When we use your systems, we have problems. But this is what's happening. The research guys are looking at machine translation in the lab. They want to build autonomous translation machines. Things that you can really just throw in a text and you press a button and you get a translation. This is what they want to build. Okay, their goal is very different from our goal. Yeah, like last year I gave a keynote at the Association for Machine Translation in the Americas to the research guys and said, hello, wake up, you are working over here, and those of us who use MT are working way over here. So we're not working on the same problems, okay? And that's one of the reasons why we see the things that I just showed you, okay? So thinking this way is far, far, far too simplistic. Humans alone can do it, it's too simplistic. Machines like this can do it, way too simplistic. You may relate to this, so this is more realistic. This is what see, this is an accurate representation of a real translation workflow. Does this sound familiar for any of you? I've seen workflows that are very much like this. Okay? what does the picture mean? The picture means that there are a lot of ad hoc steps, there are a lot of manual steps, there's a lot of craziness going on, especially on the client side. No, I didn't say that, folks. Our clients are angels, okay? There is an MT engine in the middle, isn't there? Okay? But I can't get the research guys to understand that this is what's going on. Okay, again, this is way too simplistic. So here's today's question. What's coming? Like my crystal ball. I didn't bring it with me because it doesn't fit in my suitcase. And I don't use those kinds of clothing. Okay, so yeah, that's the real where I'm at here. Okay, good. So a couple of people have said this. I tried to look it up. I heard of Andy Grove, one of the CEOs of Intel, used to use this. On the internet, they say Abraham Lincoln used it. But it's really apropos, I think. The best way to predict the future of translation is to build it, okay? And building it by saying, oh, that machine translation stuff is horrible, isn't gonna fly, okay? So we've been thinking and talking in terms of machine-only translation versus human-only translation for a long, long time. And that's what got us into trouble. And that's what got us all this wonderful, all this crappy press that we're getting now. It's too simplistic. It's just black versus white thinking. It does not reflect our reality. What we have to do is explore the 50 Shades of Grey in the middle. Aha, you've been reading that stuff, huh? You like trashy novels. Good. Okay. This is curious. I got more of a response from this one here than in the US. All right. Cross-cultural differences. But that's essentially what we need to look at is what kinds of combinations can we make, okay? Rather than polarize. Okay, so what we want is the best of both. Okay, human-only translation, we know, can't keep up with the scale and speed of many use cases. How many of you would like to spend your day translating emails and Twitter feed? Why not? Okay? How many of you would like to translate item descriptions from eBay? Okay, which are really crappy English, not the quotes. It's close to English, sometimes. Okay? I figured out that if we wanted to do everything that's posted on eBay by hand, we would need all the translators in the world, essentially, for each language. Okay? Is it reasonable to think we're going to do it with humans? It's not. Would you want to if it was available? No. Okay? On the other hand, machine-only translation, as you very, very well know, can't keep up with the demands in terms of variability of context and process, and the demands of nuance and quality for many use cases. Okay? This is clear. This is clear. Okay? We need something that can merge them. Okay? We need something that will combine them in a really, really effective way. And that's what I want to talk a bit more about. Curious thing, though, is that we're not alone in this. So there are other professions, challenging creative professions that have faced this challenge, and they've come to forge a real relationship with computers. Okay? First example for you is chess. Chess is freaking hard. You have to be very smart, you have to be very creative, and you have to really, really, really know what you're doing. Unfortunately, in '97, which is a long time ago, last century, computers were able to beat the best in the world. Okay? And Kasparov has actually written quite a bit about this. So what happened? Did they give up and go home and say, I'm never going to play chess again? And cry? No, they came up with something that they call centaur chess, also called freestyle chess. Okay? We'll make teams, and we'll pit teams one against the other, and the teams can be any combination of humans of any skill level and computers. Okay? And now let's see who wins. Who wins in this scenario? Do real grand masters win in these scenarios? Do the computers alone win in these scenarios? Turns out they don't. Turns out that you can get pretty good players who are very, very, very good at using the computers, beat out the grandmasters, and beat out the best algorithms. I think that's really cool. So what we have here is something that's actually better than human expert chess. Cool? One example. Another example. Have you ever seen these? This is a strap-on thingy called an exoskeleton. If you're paralyzed, you can walk. If you're carrying a 400-pound pack on your back, you can do it. Okay? Does it walk? Nope. Does it know where to go? Nope. But it's damn useful if you're carrying something that heavy. In fact, that's what it was developed for. Soldiers with lots of extra equipment. Okay? So I would call this another example, and this is better than human locomotion. Okay? Just another way of integrating the best of the human with the best of the machine. Okay? Anyone see anything like this? Recognize it? What is it? Yeah, cockpit. Okay? Does this look like your grandpa's cockpit? The Wright brothers? No, it's actually a fly-by-wire system. Okay? Where the expert pilot makes one gesture, and the computer translates that into 300 adjustments to the control surfaces in the airplane. Could the human do that? Could the human possibly adjust 300 surfaces at the same time for each change in orientation? No. Okay, so we get here, again, is better than human piloting. Okay, if they said, no, we're not going to use computers are horrible, they're going to take our jobs, what would happen? We'd still be going, right? Okay, what do we got here? There are common elements to all of these. So what we're creating is a hybrid, what I call hybrid intelligence. You're getting the best of both. Okay? You're not relying only on one, and you're not relying only on the other. The strategic use is key here. You're using each one for what it does best and changing back and forth. Okay? Real-time interaction. That's key, right? So you can change back and forth. But the strategic use is the logic in the background saying like, hey, psst, you do this part because I'm going to do this part. Okay? So the humans have to contribute. And they contribute the insight, the creativity, the strategy, and the evaluation that the machines can't do. Does this sound familiar? Does this sound like stuff that you would see that an MT system can't do? Exactly. And the machines contribute what? Speed, thoroughness, comprehensiveness, strength, coordination, and reliability that our frail code workers can't do. All right, how many of you can do 500,000 words per day? Okay. Okay. And how many of you could do the research that would be really cool to be able to do is check 1,000 translations each time you translate a sentence? Can't do that, but the computer can. Okay? So, first question I'm expecting from you is, well, so why doesn't post-editing work? Right? We got humans, we got machines, they're kind of working together. All right? Yes, we got humans and machines, that's right. But we're missing some stuff. Hybridization. It's two separate intelligences. The machine does its thing way over there, and doesn't talk to the human who's doing his thing way over here. Okay, so they're two separate. There's no logic there for deciding who's going to do which part when for post-editing processes. It's just like, you run through the machine and you clean up the mess. Oh, am I supposed to say that? I don't think so. And we're also missing real-time interaction. It's done in batch and it's done in sequence. Okay? So there's no way this is going to give us the kind of hybrid intelligence that we would really like to see. Okay? But the most important question is, who's going to guess? What's the most important question? Oh, God. What?
How?
Nope.
When's lunch?
When's lunch? There we we go. That is it. All right. That means I have to hurry up and be quiet and shut up. All right. This is nice. Okay, hurry up. So I'll finish in 2 minutes instead of 12. All right. Who's in the driver's seat? It took me a long time to find a photo where the human was actually driving and the robot was helping.
That's what it's like in real life.
Huh?
That's what it's like now.
It's supposed to be, yes. Okay? And it took me a while to find such an elegant translator picture. Okay, so that's the key thing here. And this is what we don't have for post-editing. Okay? It's not people driving. It's the machine drives it, and you can clean it up as much as you want, and then we're done. Okay? So that's why I'm saying that's not the hybrid kind of intelligence that we're looking for. It's not the way we need to go. What do we got? Yeah, so the translator's not driving. The first step that we found, and we've already talked about it today, is adaptive MT. Okay? The first step in this direction. Okay? I really like the way they're doing stuff. This one is from Lilt. How many people have used it? Adaptive MT? Okay, so it's starting. Good, do more. Why is this better? Well, one, yeah, we have humans and machines. It's better than post-editing because we have humans plus machines. We also have real-time interaction. Okay, so you tell the machine what your preferences are, and the machine incorporates them and uses them next time around. Okay, the humans are driving. You're not cleaning up the stuff. You're driving. So this is huge. This is significant progress stuff. We have to put more AI in there. So we can say, you don't even have to look at this sentence. We already know from past experience that this is correctly translated. Okay? Things like that. Another part that I see coming out that we see in the literature, maybe you've seen this report from Common Sense Advisory. They're talking about augmented translation. This is another buzzword kind of thing. But what they're focusing on is the workflow. Is having more materials available for the translator to use in a better workflow. Okay? And that's improved communication, which is one of the things that I'm talking about as well. It's very interesting. The question here is, the most important question, back to, I think it was Moshe's answer, is how? Okay? Eventually I got there. Okay? How can we move in this direction? How can we make things happen like this? So we can have even better news than the stuff that's coming out in the press now. Okay? So we have some action items here for discussion. And I think one of the most important ones is to understand. We need to do research. We have to understand way better what can humans do that computers can't. Okay? I've talked a lot with, you know the work of Sharon O'Brien at Dublin. Okay? So Sharon's been putting a lot of effort into seeing what humans can do well and what machines don't do well, this kind of stuff. I think we need a lot more of that. But we need it in a production context because the things change. In the lab, yeah, sure, there are differences. But in the real world, I think that those differences are going to be incredibly magnified. So the short answer here is quality is not a good enough answer. Yes, we know, okay, but let's go into more detail. What kinds of things in what kinds of situations do we really, really, really need humans for? Funny machine translation is fun, but it's not a good answer for this. The fact that I can give you 10 sentences that are funny and stupid translations doesn't mean that machine translation is useless. Okay, it's useful in some situations, and we have to identify those very carefully. I think this is part and parcel of the key question that all LSPs are asking themselves is how do I add value to my customers? How am I different from the other LSPs out there? There's so many. Okay, this is part and parcel of this. Okay, there are a whole bunch of things that machine translation cannot do. We know off the bat. Okay, this is a very short list. Okay, if you sit and think for a little while and we look at more translation output, I don't want you to look at as much MT output as I have looked at. It's probably not good for you. Okay, I mean, they think TV is bad for your brain. Well, MT output is worse. This is why I'm like this. Okay, so MT can't do a lot of things that MT can't do. This is good. So we know that we want to make a really reliable list of the things that the humans have to do. Okay, to start separating things out. The next action item is, I forgot to do this one. All right. There's some risk factors here. Peter and I were talking last night, and he thought you might want to think about this for a minute. It reminds me of a couple of years back, I came to give a full-day workshop on machine translation for the German Translator and Interpreters Association. We got to the end of the day, and I'd say like 99% of them said, "Oh, that's very interesting, but we don't have to worry about this. We're not going to use MT." It's like, okay, we see. So here's some risk factors. If you don't use a lot of automation yet, then you want to watch out for these, because these will tell you that MT will come into your life soon. Okay? If you work mostly for large LSPs or multinational corporations, they're already used to it. Okay? If you get your work from a translation portal, what does that mean? That means that your client has got his act together in terms of process. And if the process has been standardized, then that means that the next step is MT. Okay? That's probably your best insurance for avoiding MT, is when the client is chaotic. Okay, so if you want to avoid MT, you go for the chaotic clients. Okay? I'm serious. I talked to an LSP owner once, and he very happily said, "Oh, half my revenue is from express translations, because my clients are so disorganized that they need the extra week or extra days to get the content done, so I very happily charge them twice as much." Okay? These are great. This is the kind of LSP business you want if you want to avoid MT. Okay? Because MT just doesn't have the flexibility to do this stuff. Same thing. If your clients give you work only in one file format, how many of you can say that? Oh, gee. Okay, this is good. If your clients get very good TM leverage, if they have really good source content, which means it's pretty repetitive, they probably use things like acrolinks, so the style is pretty consistent. Okay, so all of these things are indicators that they're ready for MT, or that you're ready for MT. Cool? And you can negate all of them the same way. The more chaos in the client, the less you need MT, the less you can use MT, probably. Okay? So you said they would react, they did. Dead silence. All right, let me get it to you. Okay, so the other side, like I said, what can computers do? What can they do well? What can they do reliably? Speed and price are definitely not going to be the whole answer, because there are things where it goes fast, but it takes you twice as much time to fix it. Okay? Great MT engines like Google Translate still can't do a consistent job with tu and vu. Okay? My favorite language is Portuguese. They mix to hell the continental Portuguese and the Brazilian versions of things. Okay? Just ask it about teacups, and some of the sentences come out with chávena, which is continental, and some come out with xícara, which is Brazilian. Okay? That's a pain in the butt to fix, as you know. Okay? So there's a whole bunch of things that humans can't do, and we alluded to some of them already. Okay? For some kinds of projects, especially for some kinds of time frames, it's really hard to get humans to do stuff. To do all of it, I should say. Okay? So we have to go into this. This is a placeholder here. Which kinds of projects can humans do better? Can machines do better? Which kinds of sentences? Which kinds of documents? Okay? Which kinds of clients? All right. There you go. Know your tools, all of them. Influence the vendors. We were already doing this with memoQ. Okay? But there are others. Okay? I would suggest you even boycott the tools that aren't meeting your needs. Find a workaround so that you don't have to use them. Team up. LSPs can team up to say, hey, we need a tool that does this. Let's do it. Let's not wait for SDL. Oops. You really need to learn how to train your own systems, your own MT systems, so you can understand better when they work, how they work, why they work, okay? And bend them to your will. Hey, that's a good phrase. I'm going to use that. Okay? You can change post-editing jobs into lilt jobs. You can pre-process a lot better. You can do a whole bunch of things. What I'm saying is a big part of facing the future and the onslaught, if you want to call it that way, of automation is to know your tools better. So you know exactly when you want to use this kind of machine translation system and when you want to use memoQ. That's kind of the question I would ask. You have a painter. He's using a roller. Is that all he needs to know? I know a lot of human translators who have in the past just said, hey, I do a really good job. I translate by hand. I don't need TMs. I don't need MT. I have my roller. And I can paint. I can translate. Okay? Is this the best way to paint a portrait? How about a teacup? Not gonna work. Okay? So that's the point here. Maybe you need a robot to do some kinds of paint jobs. Okay? Maybe you need an airbrush. The roller sure as hell won't work for a whole bunch of effects that you can get from an airbrush. Maybe you're gonna need regular old paintbrushes. Or just throw paint at something. Okay? We have the same situation for translation. We need to know all of our tools, so we know which one works best in which scenario. Okay? Oh yeah, there's spatulas. I love it. There's no brush involved. Okay, last one. Know your processes. You know this. One of the things that I most admire about LSPs is they got this process thing down pat. Okay, this is where you're competing on efficiency in the process. Your processes are clear. You're doing a really good job of this. Okay? But most of them don't include MT yet. Cool, next step. Okay? The human part of the process, I think, is working really well. Okay? But these are some of the questions, you know. Which of your translators is going to work best with MT or not? We've seen differences. Some translators just puke on the MT. Oh, sorry. They don't react positively to machine translation output. Okay? So that slows them down and it creates headache for everyone. Okay? But others just kind of dive in and say, all right, I can deal with this. Okay? So there's a lot of integration issues going on here that we have to understand clearly if we're going to move in this direction of hybrid intelligence. There you go. Some of the things I told researchers, well, same thing. We need to understand what the machines can do well and what the humans can do well. They don't talk about humans. Enable richer communication between the MT system and the human translator. They're looking at autonomous systems, so they haven't worried about this. Same thing, make MT systems more controllable. We want to drive the MT system. We have to. They still haven't quite, what is it the Germans say? They still haven't figured this out. Okay? Where'd it go? Here we go. That's it. Well, I like this quote from Tim O'Reilly. It's very recent as well. When he sees all the literature about the jobs that are going away, he says, stop. We have to stop talking about jobs. We have to enable people to do things that were just totally unthinkable in the last century, which you might remember, but I do. Okay? Like maybe something like high-quality translation at 10,000 words a day. Something that was unthinkable. Can we make it happen? Yeah, we can. But we need help.